Chapter 25. Cara. Cara heard the front door open and glanced out of her room to see who it was. Surprise flooded her as she watched Cole and Makenna enter his room. As the door closed, a sting of jealousy shot through her body. What were they doing together in his room? Wasn't Makenna with Bubba? She shook her head to clear the traitorous thoughts. She held no claim on Cole. Yes, there had been fireworks and a near kiss, but he hadn't explicitly said he was interested in her, nor did she know if she was interested in dating him. Okay, that was a lie. She was definitely interested in dating him. If she could ever find a vaccine and stop whoever wanted this virus, and if he wanted to date her. Besides, there could be some completely innocent reason the two had gone into his room alone. None were coming to mind at the moment, but she was sure there had to be one. "Looking for something?" Cara jumped at the deep voice that had managed to sneak up on her. Her shoulder smacked into the doorframe, sending a sharp pain down her arm. Rubbing the tender spot, she turned to see Bruce staring at her with a raised brow. How on earth did that Mack truck of a man sneak up on her? She had to keep her attention focused on the problem at hand and not on Cole. "I was just coming out to join everyone in the living room." She offered him a smile, but he did not return it. His gray eyes continued to bore into hers. Okay, perhaps she could just change the subject. "What are you doing out here? Was your room not acceptable?" "The room is fine." Cara blinked at him, waiting for more, but he said nothing further. He was definitely a man of few words. "Great. Well, then I guess I'll head to the living room." She locked her door behind her and listened for the click as she pulled it shut. She didn't know why, but Bruce, standing so near her room, gave her the creeps. Laptop firmly gripped under her arm, she made her way to the living room. Bruce followed, sending shivers and the urge to run down her spine with every step. Relief flooded her when she spied Anthony and Kat already in the room, setting their laptops up. "Shall we wait for Malone?" Cara asked, as she sat in one of the vacant chairs. She was glad Anthony and Kat had chosen the couch, leaving only single chairs in the room. There was no way she wanted Bruce invading her space any more than he already had. "He had to run an errand," Bruce said, taking a position behind the couch where he could easily see both Anthony's and Kat's screens. "He said to start without him." Cara narrowed her eyes at Bruce, but the man's poker face was unreadable. It was unlike Malone to just disappear, but the other two researchers didn't seem fazed by the news. Perhaps this had become normal behavior for him in the last year. Cara tried not to make more out of it, but she couldn't help wondering where he would have gone in the middle of a pandemic. "Okay, well, let me share the information from my cloud with you." Her fingers flew across the keys, and within moments she had delivered the information from her server to their screens as well. Bruce's ability to see the information unnerved her, but perhaps Malone had asked him to survey and take notes. Silence descended on the room as everyone read over the information she and Steve had collected over the last few years. "So it appears there was some benefit to using oxytrophic amino acid synthesis mutant strain B. malai," Anthony said as he glanced up at Cara and adjusted his glasses. "Yes, we were able to run that test in the lab before we were forced into seclusion. Unfortunately, while there was some improvement in the mice, they rapidly deteriorated around day 60, leading us to believe that would only buy time, but not a true cure." Kat looked up from her laptop and blinked a few times, as if processing what she was going to say before the words left her bright purple lips. Not only did her lip color match her hair, but she had accented her eyes with a similar color. Since the oxytrophic B. malai mutant deficient in an iron-active transport system appeared to work for the acute inhalation variety of Burkholderia, but not the others, maybe we need to look not at vaccines, but at 2 or 3 different types of cures. Cara let the information saturate her brain before forming her question. You're saying that perhaps a vaccine will not be possible due to the different varieties, but we could work on a cure for the acute inhalation variety, the topical exposure variety, and the ingested variety? Kat nodded once. I know that is a lot more work, but as it appears that none of the trials the two of you performed worked in all of the cases, yet some worked well in certain cases, it may be the only option. I suppose it's worth looking into, Cara said slowly, although it won't allow for a vaccine to keep people from being exposed. Plus, it would require that doctors know exactly how the patient was exposed. That isn't always a possibility. No, Anthony added, but it would improve the survival rate in cases where it is known. Hope began to pulse inside Cara's veins. Could this be the answer? Okay, how about we each take one variety and review the previous attempts that worked well with that variety? Then we can bring back the strongest information to the table, and maybe we can take something solid to the hospital. The other two nodded in agreement. Bruce, who had remained silent up until that point, fixed her with a steely gaze. How many are sick currently? Cara blinked at the blunt question. Why did that even matter? I'm not sure. I haven't checked in with Nick since this morning. But there were 2 the last time I spoke to him at that point, and at least 30 awaiting results, plus the 3 who had already died. That just seems like a small number to be going through all this work. His blunt, matter-of-fact tone bothered her. Did he not realize how deadly this disease was? Would you have preferred the whole town was sick? Or perhaps just me? She threw the last part in to see if his face would give anything away. Was he behind the unleashing of this disease? His glare could have cut glass, but it revealed nothing of his internal motivations. Of course not. Good, because even one death is too many, and the mortality rate for this disease is rather high. The sooner we can find a vaccine, the better. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to get to work. She returned her gaze to Anthony and Kat. I'll continue researching the pulmonary infection since it's what I was studying earlier. Anthony, why don't you take localized and disseminated infection, while Kat takes the bloodstream infection? The 2 researchers looked at each other and nodded. Sounds good. As if Bruce had just been hanging around to see the research and the resulting conclusion, he now slipped away, leaving Cara even more concerned about him. Why had Malone brought him? Could he be the snake David referred to? She still didn't know what David had meant by that, or if they had even been coherent words. Perhaps he had only been hallucinating. With a sigh, Cara closed her laptop and stood to return to her room. Though she was glad to finally have help and was optimistic they had a better handle on this disease, she still had no idea who had killed Steve and David, and that bothered her. Would she ever be able to answer that question?